been asked a few times to explain my story, to kind of tell who I am, what happened, why, how I feel, and all of that. So I will take that opportunity now. I was married for 11 years, and 6 of those years were hard because my wife developed a rare case of cancer. She had cancer of the tonsil, and was way outside the trend. Generally speaking, the people who get the kind of cancer that she had are men over 50 who drink and smoke for a career, and she was 30, didn't do any of that stuff ever, and a picture of health, and yet she got hit with this. So for the first years it was misdiagnosed, and we went through oncologists and other ENT specialists and many people who just basically said, you're too young to have cancer, which to me at this point is like, what a joke. So for the first 2 years it just grew, and it kept growing, and it affected a lot of her neck, every region from here to here, all the way around. She had 34 tumors basically, and we went into La Jolla Scripps here in San Diego, and the doctors, they were kind of baffled at first too, and decided to do needle biopsies and things like that. Painful stuff, but never came out conclusive. And finally I just pointed out something, and the doctor looked inside her mouth and said, that's it. They did a biopsy. They came back and said that she had the most advanced localized case of cancer they'd ever seen, and came up with a big plan, a very aggressive plan. Told her they did not want to tell her how much longer she had, but that the point of it all was to keep her alive so that she could spend time with her grandkids. And we began this really aggressive campaign of chemo and radiation and surgery, and that went on for the first 1.5 years, just non-stop treatment. And she was a trooper. She was amazing. She just went through it all, courageous and strong, and homeschooled the whole time, and took care of me, which was an even bigger task. And then it spread. And in fact, when we first went in, there was a tiny lesion, 1 millimeter lesion on her liver. Lesion's a tumor. And because they were doing chemo, which is systemic and goes everywhere in your body, they thought that it would be eradicated very easily if it took care of everything in her neck. So they basically said, don't worry about the one in her liver, that'll go away, least of our worries. And it turned out to be the very thing that killed her. As treatment went on for first 1.5 years, she had a radical neck dissection. After radiation treatments, followed that up with more radiation treatment, and got rid of everything in her neck. It kept growing in her liver, and for the next 2.5 years we fought it and fought it and fought it, and it just kept growing. It was stubborn and never stopped, and eventually it went back into her eye, her lungs. Her liver grew to 3 times the size of a normal liver, went back into her throat and her neck, went into her jaw. I don't need to go on. And what was amazing about her is that she kept teaching, she kept cooking, she kept doing the laundry, she kept doing everything she could, which is incredible. So last August 15th, we're coming up on a year. In fact, I've got 6 days left until the 1st year anniversary. We went in for a surgery to relieve the symptoms, we'll just say. Doing this had become old hat. I had been to the hospital countless times with her. Been through treatments, surgeries, radiation, everything. I was there for every treatment but one, which I let her mom go in. And so we were there for the surgery. I prayed for her. I told her before she went in, she could barely look up. She was so out of it from just everything. Told her that I loved her and that I would see her when she got out. And she went in for the procedure. I went back into the waiting room, wrote down some ideas that I had, said a prayer again, and then an hour and a half later walked outside, gave a call to my mom who had the kids at the time, and not 10 minutes later I got a call from the doctor saying that there was a problem. And did I have paperwork in place? So I took that as something serious, and he said, we've got to meet. So I went down in the lobby. He met me there, and they began telling me basically that she's in a coma and she's not coming out. And I just sat there thinking about it all, wondering how it could be happening. Then I saw my oncologist, our oncologist, walk around the corner, and he was shaking his head and crying almost, trying to be tough. And I saw the nurse come around as well, and they were friends of ours at this point. We'd been seeing each other for 4 years. And they just looked at me and said, I'm sorry. So I told him I needed a moment alone. I went into a small room and asked God what in the world was going on. This was not supposed to be happening, not part of the deal. Asked them to take me in to see them, to see her, which they said was impossible because there was a huge team of doctors in there. I looked at my oncologist. He looked at the nurse. The nurse said, I'll get it done. And they cleared the room. I went in and saw that they were pumping her with air. She could not breathe on her own. And about half an hour later, there in the emergency room, I watched all of her vital signs drop to 0 and said goodbye. And the hard thing about that was, number one, it wasn't supposed to be that way. We'd been married for 11 years, and I believed 100% that I would go before she did, or at least that we would grow old together. So that was the first thing. But the next thing, which was the most difficult process of it all, was I had to figure out, what about the boys? What are they going to do, and how am I going to allow them to say goodbye? Should they say goodbye? All the things that I was struggling with, and things I hadn't really actually prepared for mentally. And I had to do it right there in the emergency room, right there at the hospital, with everybody around me, swarming around me, because she just died, and she's right in front of me. So I decided about half an hour later that the boys needed to come up and say goodbye.